record. Hi, and welcome to Stimming in Stilettos with Dr. Tasha. And y'all, I'm super excited. I'm stoked actually, because of course we have a great guest, but I just want to talk to her, right? I just want to talk to this person. Um, and so I've watched her. She has a TED Talk. You guys, she's gonna talk to you about it. But she has a whole bunch of videos and some other stuff, and she's going to help us in a lot of different ways. And that's why I'm really excited to be in conversation with this young lady.
Yes, super young, just an infant.
But you know what? Young is a state of mind, right? So Josselyne, welcome to the show. Um,
Thank you.
I can't listen, y'all. When I tell you, so I watched her. So she got sent to me, right? And actually, she wrote to me herself and said,
Yes.
I would be a great guest for your show. And I was like, you are correct.
We love great minds think alike.
I could not refuse it, especially after I watched your video and then we had we had a 30-minute conversation and I was like, I feel like this is gonna be a really smart but informative and fun conversation. And I could not wait to have it. So I really am glad you said yes. You made the time because y'all, she's moving to Paris. Okay. She's moving to
In
Paris. She's going to tell us
six
about it
days. In
in
six
6 days
days.
at the time of this recording. OMG. So she's got stuff and she made time to be here with us. And so I'm going to make the best of this time I have with you. And again, want to thank you for just agreeing to be on the show.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for saying yes to my basically my inviting myself.
Listen, but that's how it happens, right? It's this sort of like if you want opportunities, sometimes you have to make your own, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and that's what it is. So,
And how would you know about me unless I let you know about me? So there you go.
and that's a whole podcast episode by itself, like
It's true.
and it's actually probably one of the ones that I'm still learning, if I'm being totally honest.
Yeah.
But so I do want to learn more about you. So as I do in every single episode, please tell us about yourself. Tell us your story.
Well, let's see. Where do I start?
A long time ago in the
Yes, back at when I was born in 1912, which is only how it feels sometimes. But when I was 11, seriously though, when I was a child, when I was 11, my parents were separated and they were going to get divorced. And then my mother did what was then called a transformative workshop.
Mm,
It was like a weekend long or, whatever. And I watched her go from being a victim in this whole separation with my father of everything that he had done and all that stuff to being like what I call unmessable with, like able to create anything. Like she would say, I'll have a job in 3 weeks. And she had a job in 3 weeks. I'm
wow,
going to get an apartment for this rent. And she would. And it was like all of a sudden, this power was like oozing from her.
wow.
Then my father did the same workshop a year later and they got back together.
Shut up.
I am not kidding you. And in fact, this year is their 65th wedding anniversary. So they have been together 65 years,
Oh,
and that was 45 years ago.
whoa,
So it was
whoa.
not going to happen. Anyway, they were getting divorced for good reason. And you would
Right.
want them to be divorced the way they used to interact. But
Mhm.
everything altered. And I said, well, what did you guys do? Like, what is the magic pill? They said, well, we did this workshop and they have it for kids if you want to do it. I was 11. I said, sure. What a day off of school. I figured, okay,
Right.
why not? And from that moment on, I started to develop my muscle of what I call being unmessable with, which doesn't mean being tough or
Right.
being callous or shoving your emotions. It's about being able to fulfill on your dreams and stay grounded in who you are, not get thrown, not get hooked,
Oof.
not go down for the count. Exactly. Unhookable would be another way of saying it. So I that's like kind of where it started. And then in my very early 20s, one of the things I really wanted to do since I was a little kid was be a singer. And somewhere around 5 years old, I decided you can't do that. You
Mm,
can't do your art as your career. So I'll have to go into business or be a lawyer or something, whatever. So then I was in business, and I was at 19, I was running a company and successful, making money, but I wasn't pursuing my dream to be a singer because it was not possible in my
right.
view,
In
right?
your brain. Hmm.
Exactly. In my brain. And it was like this belief, but it wasn't a belief. It was the truth at that point, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I see that. Yeah.
Yep. So then I'm in a transformative workshop, and all of a sudden I see maybe that's not the truth. Like, what if
Right.
it's not the truth? It's a decision I made at 5, like in the infinite wisdom of 5. And now I've just been like gathering evidence for the reality of it my whole life.
Right. To make it true.
Exactly. Because
Mm.
we see what fits our story.
Hmm.
And in that moment, it just disappeared as a limit. And within 3 weeks, I got a record deal.
Shut up.
I am not joking.
What?
Yes. And that record went number one. It was actually the next number one after Whitney Houston's I Will Always Love You was number one for like 500,000 weeks. We were the next number one
Wow.
after that song. So I got really clear that it is possible to fulfill on anything if you can disappear what's in the way
Mm.
and, see what's in the way, then disappear it, which is basically what happened to me. So I began a mission, which was to support people, empower people to fulfill their dreams, and be unmessable with in the process, no matter what life throws at them. And that's where I started leading transformative work. That was 30 years ago. And I started my entertainment company to manage careers of actors. And all of that is what I've been doing over the last, 30 years, in addition to having a nonprofit that was designed to do that for community leaders and raising money for charities and all of that. And this moving to Paris is the latest in one of my personal dreams, but really my life's about having people fulfill their dreams
Mm.
now, not someday.
See, I I love it. I mean, because it sounds well, okay, so it sounds simple, right? Like you kind of you make a decision or at whatever age, and at some point, usually these are like these self-limiting, I can't do these things, right? I can't be this person. I can't, right? And then you, like you were saying, you sort of draw those things to you that reinforce the idea that you
Yeah.
can't. Um, and so I guess my question for you then is like, what is the thing or things that you do to help you get rid of like at least that thought? Because then there is another decision once that thought is gone, right? Because you
Well,
actually
I
have
don't
to
know if
decide
there's
to do it.
Well,
Huh?
I don't know if it's another decision. This is what I work with people on, is
Okay.
developing a muscle of creation, because
Uh,
mostly we're in the world of reaction.
mm,
So we're reacting to decisions we made, we're reacting to what people say, oh, that's a silly dream or whatever. And we're dealing with life from our reactions, our fears, our reasons, our considerations, which is all in this world of what I call being messable with.
yeah.
But in this other world of creation, or being unmessable with, it's like magic. It's like you're and you could relate to this because there are times in your life where you were just creating. You didn't know what you were doing. You were just,
True.
maybe when you started this podcast, it was like, I'm going to do this podcast and I don't know how to do, but I'm just, and even your failures were invigorating
Yeah.
because you were create. Yeah. Well, everybody's got some memory of that, but then what you create becomes something to manage
Mm,
and have it survive. And this can happen with a relationship, it can happen with a business, it can happen with a project, it can happen with anything, your wellness, your fitness. It turns into something that you have to deal with and manage. So now you're not looking up and out where you were in creation mode, you're looking down and in.
oh, got it.
Yep. And that is a muscle that overcompensates. So, like any muscle, this muscle becomes atrophied, the creation muscle, and the muscle of dealing with life, even if it's super effectively, because, successful people are good at reacting to stuff.
Right.
So dealing with life, that becomes like the overcompensating muscle. So most of the work I do with people is to break them out of that world and get them to have strategies and methods to move over into the world of creation and build that muscle back up again, because that's when you're the most alive.
So can I just say that I'm sitting here listening to you, and while there's a huge part of me that is totally excited about what you're saying, there's another part that's like a little scared.
Well, how come?
I don't it was I'm sitting here like, wow, I'm like, yes, mm-hmm, but can I really? Right? And it was just that thought, and I was like, wow, this is part of the work.
Yes, it
And
is, because that very thought is part of your survival. And
mm,
that whole like reasons and justifications and self-doubt and fear is all in that world. So the minute you start to pop through that world, all that stuff is going to suck you right back in.
mm, got it. Got it. Wow. Okay, and I want to rewind for me anyway,
Sure.
because I always tell people, I've been telling people, and maybe I need to stop telling people that like 2022 was like the year designed to take me out, right? I don't know if it was. That's just the way I
Well,
felt.
clearly it was designed poorly because you're still here.
I'm still
So,
here.
you
Um,
know,
I am still here, but I felt like that. I felt like 2022, if there was a thing, talk about being messable with, right? It was me. Like last year was me. If there
yeah.
was a thing that was going to happen to someone, it was going to happen to me. If there was going to be someone who was going to be coming for me, it was me, right? And all the folks. And then there was family members, there were people that I was really close to, there were folks that didn't even know me. There were situations where I was like, and how did my name get in this?
Yeah.
Right? It was all of the things. It was all of the things. And I was like, I spent the better half of the year going, what? I don't know what it is I'm in. I understood that it was like, I was in a thing, right? And I couldn't see how I was going to extricate myself from this. I
Yeah.
couldn't see it. I knew and understood though that I was going to come out, and I knew and understood that whatever was going to be at the end of it was going to be really good, right? Because I was just like, I'm not going through all this crap for
For
the
nothing.
end, for the
Yeah.
other side to not be good, right? Just and so I just got really still in it, right? And just could look around, and the thing I had to do was get clear about me, and that was a lot of the work.
Mm.
That was a lot of the work. It was like, okay, so, it was like one of those things where hurt people. Like, where are you not healed? What are the things that you've been telling yourself that kind of leads you? Like when someone says XYZ about you, you actually entertain it, even though you like, no, this is not true about you. And so it took me until about November
Mm.
of last year for me to be like, y'all can kick rocks. Y'all, and all of y'all, this situation, these folks, that business, that job, okay. We're probably not gonna be friends again, that kind of thing. I don't want to talk to you. It took me until about November for me to be in a place where I could walk and feel like, and see and feel and hear things. Like I felt like I had just woken up.
Yeah.
It was crazy. It was a crazy, crazy time.
Well, see, if I were your coach, I wouldn't have been focused on getting you out of those situations. I would have been focused on building your ability to be with anybody at any time in any situation and not lose power,
Yeah,
because there are going to be people like that. And you can't always extricate yourself from the situation. So that's part of my mission, is that you or anybody never has to get rid of situation. That doesn't mean you have to stay in the situation or the
right,
relationship,
right.
but that you could, and you wouldn't be disabled in it.
Yeah. See, I didn't know that though.
Yeah.
I actually felt disabled. I felt
Yeah.
like I couldn't move. I felt like I was in walking in quicksand, all the things. Like I just felt like I gotta sit here, take these darts. And I
Yeah.
was feeling every single one of them.
And that's what happens to people. And then what happens is like, so people are reacting to you. They say whatever they say about you, right?
Right.
And then you react to their reaction. And now you're just so deep in the world of reaction, there's no possibility. There's no creation available. It's all just surviving.
Right.
So it's kind of like, developing the ability to not take the bait. When people react to you, you don't have to react to their reaction. They say whatever they say. I mean, if somebody called you a sweet potato, you wouldn't be like, I am not a sweet potato. And what are you talking about? I mean, that's absurd.
Right.
But people say, oh, you're stupid or whatever they say. And it's because you are hookable.
Mm,
See, if they say whatever they say and it doesn't hook you, you can be with anything that they say with no loss of power and no loss of ability and no loss of vision. Then it's just kind of like, okay, now here's what I'm creating. It doesn't impact who you are. That's being unmessable with.
yeah. I haven't, well, I can tell you I haven't quite gotten there, but I really want to, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I really want to do that work. I think that I had to go through that though, because
Totally. Yeah.
there were parts of it where I knew that I had to heal. Like I feel like I spent a large part of probably the last 4 years not healing from things, like things that had occurred in the past. And that was both physically and mentally,
Yeah.
job
You got
related
to get
kind of
that
stuff.
stuff complete. Absolutely. Otherwise, you
You
can't create anything.
absolutely do. And I knew I didn't. I knew that I hadn't healed from it. And I felt like all of the situations that were occurring last year were designed so that I could get that knowledge and then do the work,
Good.
you know?
Great. Yeah.
So, and so, again, like I said, November was that time where it was just sort of like, I just sort of looked around and was like, I could see color.
I get it. I get it. When you get stuff out of your way, you can see things you hadn't seen before for sure.
Yeah, and I felt, like you were saying, just very like I could see the colors. I could
Very
start
Wizard of
to
Oz
dream.
moment.
Yeah, but you know what? I could start to dream again. I could start thinking about like what it is I really wanted to do and or be doing, and in
Hmm.
what space I wanted to do it in, and what does that look like, and like that creative muscle um could exist. And so I think now my work is to really incorporate those like that muscle that has started to work again, or I've started to work again. I've started to
Yeah,
work it again and not lose that when like things get hard, or
totally.
or someone says something that's just sort of like out of the, you're like, wait a minute.
Well, I mean, it's not like things like that aren't going to happen because being unmessable
Sure.
with doesn't mean having a perfect life where everything's perfect and people love you and but people are going to throw stuff at you. That's the
Yeah.
way it is. And then the question is how quickly can you go from the snag to creation? So you might react,
Hmm.
but if you can see it and shift it quickly, then it doesn't really matter. It's like, okay, fine. That was like a thought. I mean, it doesn't have to hook me and take me down a road of more thoughts like that, which then send me into a spiral of moods and emotions and analysis paralysis or whatever you want to call it.
So let me ask a question.
Hmm.
Did you have so you're married and you have kids.
Yes, I'm married almost 30 years and I have 3 kids.
How does this work at your house? So like, when somebody comes for your husband or they came for your kids, or they come in with a story and said, Sally, pulled my ponytail. I don't know. I'm just throwing this. Like, how does
My
that
kids are a
work
little
on a
old for
date?
that, but even when
Right.
they were young, yes.
But I'm trying to figure out like what does it look like on a day-to-day basis? Like especially for you as a mother and then them being your kids.
Well, I can tell you most of the time, I pretty much would do what I tell people to do. And then every once in a while, you come after my kids and unmessable with turns into don't mess with me, which is a different world. Okay. And that's a different thing, especially my youngest. I remember one time, this is not a good example of being unmessable with, but my at that time, my son had told me that these 3 or 4 kids had thrown a soccer ball at him. He was like 6 years old, and that they were teasing him and whatever. And he came upstairs and told me and my oldest daughter, who's also like the Cosa Nostra, you don't want to get on her bad side. And we're up there, and he's telling us about this, and we both go running downstairs to see who these kids are, and they had already gone. And then we were in a car like 4 days later, and I hadn't told my husband, I just forgot about it. And we're in a car 4 days later driving up First Avenue to go to my parents' house, and my youngest goes, oh, those are the kids, like walking down the street the opposite direction. I literally got out of the car and I'm now chasing 10-year-olds down the street. I mean, it was definitely not my best moment, but that's an example of being messable with. Now, conversely, when my daughter came home from school one time and she had gotten caught talking in the hallway, and the teacher, had her do whatever, she got in trouble, right? And she came home and she was like, this teacher doesn't get me. I was just helping somebody that needed help in the hallway and did it. And she was all reactivated by the whole thing. And I just let her talk. And I said, okay, so what are you committed to? She goes, I want to move out of this class. I want to get out of this class because she doesn't get. I go, okay, well, we're not going to do that. I said, because in life, you're going to have people around you that sometimes don't get you or misunderstand what happened. So now what are you going to create? And she was about 8, I remember. And she was like, I don't want to create anything. I said, okay, that's your option. But if you want to create something, let me know. I can support you in creating something. And so like a couple hours later, she came into my room. She's like, okay, I want to create something. I said, okay, good. What do you want to create? Like, if you could have any kind of relationship with this teacher, what kind of relationship would you create? What's your vision for your relationship with your teacher? And she goes, well, that she would see me as an ally and somebody who could be her partner in the class. Because, my daughter loved to be like helping the teacher, right? And so I said, okay, well, we're going to go in and you're going to create that with her. So the next day she went in and did whatever she did. I have no idea. But then like a week later was the parent teacher conference, right? So I went in ready for this woman to like come after my kids. So I was ready, right?
Right.
But I walked in and she goes, your daughter, and I'm ready, is the reason I started teaching. To be able to work with people like your daughter at 8 years old, to be this kind of partner with me. And I'm just like, I look at my daughter and I'm like, well, you did it, whatever you did. But that's who my kids are, because they know they can create anything if they get out of their reaction. And they really are that. They walk that talk.
I feel
She's
like
27 now, by the way. So that was a long time ago.
Well, no, but you know what though? Like this is a timeless lesson though. And I really hope when people hear this episode, this is one of their favorites and that they put it on repeat, right? Like literally on repeat, because we have the tendency to be reactive. There's of course times when, a reaction is warranted, like, again, but at the same time, you can, the amount of, I want to say self-control, but that's not quite the right word I'm thinking of.
It's
but
discipline.
Like,
it's discipline and muscle.
yes, it's just like we do not have to give life to everything, or we don't have to give that life. We can give this life, right?
Perfectly said. Yeah.
So, and that's the thing that I think people have said something similar before. It's the other part that they don't talk about, like this part. Like, I don't have to do this, right? I don't have to engage. I don't have to entertain. I don't have to, and none of that. It's this part that we don't talk about, like the other half. Like, okay, if I'm not going to do that, I can choose to do this, or I can do this. And that's the other part.
What you're saying is so brilliant, because ultimately people work on catching themselves doing whatever, being aware. All that stuff is okay, but it's limited, because once you're aware, then what? You don't have anything else but to go back there. So it's like a vacuum. It's like, so yes, I can be aware and I can meditate and, clear out my mind. Okay, but now what?
Right.
So, it's not useful. It is useful to see it and be aware of it. But unless you create an alternative pathway, you're pretty much screwed, excuse my French, because you're going to end up back in the world of reaction. And that's what people call those like silver box moments of peace where you disappear and you're in the zone and all of that. Maybe artists feel that a lot, or, scientists, like, you're an engineer, right? So it's kind of
Right.
like when you get into those modes where you're just kind of in the zone of
Yeah, you're in it.
creation,
Hmm.
and you can remember those moments because they're so starkly different from the rest of your freaking life, which is spent surviving and dealing with and overcoming and fixing and changing. So it's one thing to have those moments, but what if you lived there?
Mm.
That takes muscle, and that takes intention and discipline and creation.
And honestly, like I said, there is a, uh, I think that there is a healthy, I'm going to say healthy, maybe not. I think that there is a fear of that because it's unknown. Like,
I
how
think
many
that's
of
well said.
us
Yeah.
really, because that's what it is. Like, I mean, my mom, like, I'm not really scared of like being there, right? It's just because I don't know what that is, right? Because I've never spent, well, you spent time there, but I don't live there, right?
No, exactly. You can't say
So,
it better than you just said it. It's like you've had moments,
yeah.
but not, decades. And the question is, people are, their brains are designed to survive and predict the future from the past, so that that whole certainty that seems that's there is not real certainty. It's just your brain can predict what's going to happen based on what's happened in the past, right? When
Mhm.
you're in this world of creation, to some degree, there is no past. It's sort of a right now phenomenon, and your brain isn't wired for that. So you have to train your brain to be able to be in that space of nothing and creation, which is a different mode from
Yes.
99% of your life or more, which is
Yes.
spent dealing with, fixing, changing, building on, improving, more, better, different. It's all from over here. So you're not creating, you're adapting from something,
Mm-hmm.
where this is creating from nothing, which takes courage, but
Oof.
it's joyful, it's magical. And you remember the times you've been there because they're
Yeah.
so special and precious and blissful. Well, you can live your life from that space. It's a muscle and it's discipline. It's not easy, but it's simple.
Got it. Got it. Understood. I am I am marinating on this. Right. I'm marinated on this. I think my question for you then becomes, where do I start?
Yeah, there's so many doors into this mansion, so you could start anywhere. And this is what I've been confronting. It's like, how do I give people an actionable pathway to this? So I've created a bunch of different pathways, and I'm still creating, like every day I'm creating, okay, how could I create a course out of that, or an offering out of that, or
Yeah,
just a
yeah.
webinar, a free thing, whatever, to get
Mhm.
as many people in this conversation. So how I start people off on my website is with a free 5-day promise game, which
Oh,
is like every day you get an email and there's a promise of the day. And it all begins with your word, right? So creation is in word, the world of word. Most people don't live in the world of word. They live in the world of moods and feelings and reactions and all that kind of stuff. So your access to being unmessable with is to have your word be unmessable with. And most people's word is not unmessable with, because they, maybe if you promise me you're going to meet me for lunch, you're not going to mess with that. But if you promise yourself you're going to work out for an hour tomorrow, you pretty much could mess with that.
right.
So until your word is like super solid, you'll always be messable with, that it's all about your
Interesting.
word. So I start with this promise game, and I've written 2 books about promises and how
Mhm.
powerful they can be to create a life that wasn't going to happen anyway. So I start people there. I have tons of, newsletters that are all free stuff. But then if you want to start to do stuff that's a little bit more meaty, I have a dream source discovery process, which is like from the TED Talk that you watched. It
Mhm.
walks people through discovering what messes with them, what their dream is, why do they have that dream, and gives them an actionable access to living from that space of creation. And then I have a course that people can do called the Foundation for Being Unmessable With, which is like a 5-week course with video modules and workbooks and blah, blah, blahs. And then I have group coaching, but it's limited to 20 people, but it's, 2 months of more in-depth targeted coaching that I do with people. And then I have one-on-one coaching, which is sort of the highest tier that people work with me at. But you can start with just, oh, and I have this great little thing. It's like $19. It's called the calendar workshop. So again, about your word,
Mhm.
after you kind of get this promise game under your belt, the calendar workshop teaches you to create your life through your calendar, but
Mm.
not just like to-dos. You're creating the context of what you're doing. So
Oh.
working out is working out. It's not very appealing if you see it in your calendar. But
Right.
creating vitality, go to the gym, that's a different conversation. So you create the why of everything you're doing. So you experience being the author of your life.
Love, love this. Okay, so y'all, I will have to say that we'll probably just have a link to her website where you can find out all that information.
Oh, there's tons of stuff. There's tons of stuff, and I'm constantly coming up. I'm doing an evening about money, freeing yourself from fear to freedom around
Ooh,
money. It's free. I'm going to do it in June,
yeah,
July, and August.
that one should be packed out because I feel like that's where it's like everything is about money these days, right?
It's a
I
big thing that messes with people.
Well, it is a big thing that messes with people. And now I feel like everybody, my husband likes to say people are in their feelings a lot lately,
That's
right?
right. I think I'd like your husband, but it's like, get out of those feelings. You have no control over them. They just glom on you. It's like your
I mean,
fingernails growing.
but then they act out of those feelings, and then it's the oh well, I didn't mean it, or it's just like, well, no, you meant it at the time because understand that again, he said this thing or this thing happened. Your reaction said everything, right?
Well, look at what's going on in the news. It's
Yeah.
frightening. People
Yeah.
are so in reaction, and it's all from fear and survival. And people are dying because somebody reacts and
Yeah.
doesn't take a moment to breathe or find out what's actually happening in reality.
And I agreed. 100%. I feel like there is let me rewind because we could go down that rabbit hole for a while. What I really want people to take away from this is that like you have control of this, right? You do. There is a choice you make, right? You can react or you can do something else. And it's the something else that is the key. And that's what we're talking about today. It's like giving yourself a strategy on how to do that so that you can live healthy and free and colorful and you can be creative and you can do and you open up your mind to things and you can live your best life.
Yeah. Basically, it's like fulfill your dreams, live the life of your dreams. Why not? I mean,
I
we're all
mean,
going
why
to
not?
die. I mean,
We're only going to be here one time. So we might as well get as much out of this experience as we can possibly get. And why not make most of the experiences be good experiences that are designed to grow us, experiences that are designed to, show us love and
and
or
make a
for us to show
difference with
love.
people,
Or, right, to
impact
be of
other
service.
people.
All the things. It's like, why not? Why not? I
I'm with
just
you.
I mean, why not? You have blown my mind today. Just want you to know that.
That's my that I can die happy. Okay. But hopefully I won't die because I come up to somebody's car
No, please just don't do
and
it.
they
Don't do it.
react because I'm so scary.
But I mean, seriously though, because there were a couple of things that have happened, like where I was telling you, like
Yeah.
last year, this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I prepared this dream journal, right? Because one of the things I felt like I wasn't doing was dreaming, right?
Yeah.
Because I just was like, I have so many things I want to do. And I can tell you, I don't know about you, but the older I get, the more I'm like, you know what? I'm running. Felt for a while, I'm running out of time. I'm running out of time. Like everybody has an end date. We just don't know what it is.
That's right.
And I'm like, I'm closer to my end date than in my mind. Again, my mind.
Yeah.
Um, I'm closer to my end date than I am to the beginning. So I'm like, if I'm gonna do things, I've got to get moving, right? I can't, And so, but there was an anxiousness around it. that does not exist now. Um, but
Wow.
but I had put together this dream journal because I was like, well, I know I stopped dreaming, right? I was just like, this is just gonna be what it is, right? This is as good as it's gonna get. I'm good, right? I don't live a bad
Yeah,
life.
things are fine.
Yeah, things are fine.
I'm
Right.
getting through life. It's
I mean,
good.
things
Could
are
be
good. Like,
worse.
and actually to a different end, it's like my husband's view is the same way because I understand why he feels that way because his when you meet his parents are exactly the same way. They're just like things are good. I don't need anything extra. I don't need, and it's almost like, but they could be better, right? They could be, it could be, there's better and best, right? Like, why settle for better when you can have best, right? All the things they are, that is their
That's
mentality.
not their lingo. I get it,
It is not. And so, but I will say this now, when they do decide to splurge, it is a splurge for sure. And I have been the recipient. So, like, I'm like, not mad.
Yeah.
But I also realized that is a limiting belief. Like it's almost like I can't go any higher than this.
Well, let me offer you another way to look at it, okay? So instead of better and best,
Mhm.
which requires the thing to compare it to,
Mhm.
okay? So you're still over here in the world of reaction. So you're reacting to however good it is with saying, oh, let's just get it better or even beyond better, like the
Right,
best, which
right.
still has you over in this world of reacting. So
Mm,
if you look at it differently and you go, okay, things are great, right? Things are great. We got a great marriage, we got a great family, blah, 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 whatever, right? Now, if we could create anything, what would we create? Not because it's better or best or even related to what we're doing now. If we could create anything, if we had a blank canvas and an empty page, what would we create if there was no limits to
mm.
who we were and what we had access to? What could we create? And it doesn't mean because we create it that we have to do it.
Love it. So this is going to happen in a family meeting tonight, right?
That is right. Game on. That's what I say. But that helps people because most people are protective over how good they have it, whether it's good or bad. They're protective over the status quo. It's like, well, it could be worse. So I don't want to
Mhm.
rock the boat. So
Right,
we're good. We're good. Yeah, okay. You want a marriage that works or you want
right,
a marriage that rocks. And
right.
there's a difference. And the difference is creation versus better.
Mm, got it. I think that might be the title, creation versus.
I like that actually. I think I'll do a newsletter out of that.
I
It'll be
mean,
free on my website in a couple of weeks.
okay, listen, I'm for it because so for me, what I created the dream journal because for me, I stopped dreaming.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, I know I'm not alone in it. But I didn't know how to start. So it was literally me with these blank pages. And I just said, if I were I'm in, I was like, I feel like I'm a service oriented person. Like I want to be in service to other people. I want to make sure that other people are living their best lives, right?
Yeah, that's me too.
Because I feel like that's kind of the ultimate, in a sense, whatever that looks like for you, because of course it's different. Um, and so I was like, well, some people like to write, some people like to draw, some people like to doodle, do the, all the things. Some people like lists, some people. So like, I just started writing and drawing and doing all the things, and I was like, well, dag, this is a journal, so I'm gonna make this journal. Um, and I actually used it for myself, and I was like, this is amazing. And I
Yeah.
was having one of those, thankfulness moments where I could see so much, right?
Yeah.
The creative space. It actually provides you a way to actually see the future in a way in which you haven't seen it before. It's just so lovely.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love it. It's just you're exercising your creation muscle.
Yeah. Yeah, I need more of it. So I'm going to really, my word for the year, so when we were talking about words, my word for this year was intentional, is intentional.
Like it. Good.
Right, because I felt like, again, after last year, I might change it to unmessable with.
Unmessable with. Anybody, when people would come to me after courses and be like, I got tattooed, unmessable with, I was like, wonderful.
Do it. Um, but because I felt like I gave people the opportunity because I was not intentional with myself. So it just gave people opportunity to sort of come in, do what they wanted to do with me, right? And sort of toss me to the wind because I was just like, oh, okay, whatever, right?
A
So
leaf in the wind.
right. But because I was not intentional with
Yeah.
myself. And so that I have it here. If you could see my space, intentional is everywhere here. Because when I walk into this office every day, and then I have it on my phone too, I want to be able to remind myself, hey, Natasha, you said you were going to be intentional with yourself and about everything that surrounds you. And that means all the things, your work, your play, your
That's
creative
great.
space, your family, the thing. Um, and it has been such a lovely 5 months.
Well, it's been a created 5 months because
Yeah.
you've created the game called intentional. And it's funny because, my older daughter and I had been thinking about getting a tattoo for a long time. And I was like, I don't know if I want a word on my body, like that's for life, that
Right.
word, like you can't just like mess around with and I was like, well, maybe I'll get unmessable with because that's my word for like 20 years and whatever. I got it in Webster's and the slang dictionary and all this stuff. But then I found the word and it's abracadabra, which means in ancient Aramaic, with my word, I create.
Oh, love.
That is what that word means. So I got it tattooed. So did she. So did my younger daughter. And what you did was create magic through your word. You created intentional and then intentional showed up. That's magic.
Wow. I had not thought about it like that, but I can take that. I can take that in. I feel that in a real true place. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. That's the name of my TED Talk, Abracadabra. You
It
know,
is.
it is. It's all
It
about your
is.
word, but that's really relating to your word. And it's the same word that says I'm going to work out tomorrow, take out the garbage at 7 or whatever. It's the same word. So it's not what you give your word to. It's that it's your word that you want to start to honor, not the
Yeah.
thing. You can always find a reason not to do the thing.
Right. Right. It's the intention, right?
It's the word.
The
It's that
word.
it's your creation. So
Love.
you're going to be your word, be your creation, not your reaction.
Oh, and that's one of my things. I'm always like, so I had this shirt that says "Be you, they'll adjust."
Yes, that's good. I like that.
Because I've also felt like in the past being me came at a cost
Mm.
um, to me, and so, but again, that was me not being intentional with myself. And so now I look at that and I'll tell anybody that, like, you be you. It is, that is probably your gift to yourself is to
Well, the
be
problem is most people don't know who they are because
well.
they think they're their feelings and
That's
their
true.
thoughts and their opinions and their beliefs. So they hear be you and it's like I'm going to be my opinion. I'm going to be my beliefs. I'm going to be and that's not who people are. People have no
No,
idea
but
who they are.
that's the thing though, is the one of the things that I've come to know is that, like, you really don't lie to yourself.
Mm,
Honestly, if you were really in touch with you, you don't lie to you. Like, you knew,
yeah.
you know.
Ultimately, yeah.
So, and sometimes that stuff shows up in, like goosebumps or like, hives and stress and like all the things, right? Because what you're doing right now, you should not be doing, right? Or you need to be focused here, or your focus needs to be here instead of here because this is not serving you, right?
And I
So,
think with your creating intentional as your word for the year, that gives you like a North Star to true yourself to. So
yeah,
when something isn't consistent with that,
yeah,
you can weed it out. And I would say, again, that's you being your word and measuring things against what you said, because it's not like intentional is somewhere in you. It's not like if I cut you open, I'm going to find intentional. No,
It's
you
right here.
created. Yeah,
You
right.
don't see it? It's right here.
Yeah, I have surgeon friends who told me it ain't in there, but you created it and you put it in reality all over your office and on your phone. And so it's
Yes.
in reality, but it started in your
Here.
mouth.
Love, 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 love.
Well, it gives you so much access. That's the thing I love about this work and this practice is it just gives you complete access to life.
So I've got a question for you. Another question.
Yeah.
Have you, maybe I have two, maybe three
Okay.
questions.
All right.
Yeah. So, and if you don't feel like answering, it's fine.
No, I'll answer
But
whatever it is.
I guess because there's a part of me that says, have you met up with someone or someone's who have gone through your workshop and been like, this ain't me. I can't do this. This is not even remotely possible.
I haven't had anybody like come to me and say that. I've had people bump up against stuff and have struggle with the material, which is never a problem. I'm always like when people are working with me, I'm like, email me if you have questions. I always am
Right.
like, do you have yeah buts, how abouts, what ifs, because I know it takes a new kind of thinking. Now, there may be people that just don't let me know about that, but I do invite feedback constantly. And I had one woman who, years ago when I used to lead courses at Landmark, and I led the forum and the advanced course for a long time. I was there for like 30 years. I had a woman who had participated in something there and heard the word unmessable with, but had it confused with what it is. Like she thought it was about being tough
Mm-hmm.
and like F you to people. So she emailed me recently after a social media post and she was like, being unmessable with can be dangerous. I lost my job because of being unmessable with or something like that. And I was like, you should reach out to me and I'll support you in whatever this is. So we had a conversation and within 10 minutes she was fine and she really got that she had conflated what being unmessable with was, which is what was messing with her. So I'm never worried about this works. Like
Yeah.
I'm not like, oh, do as I say, not as I do. This is what I do in my life, including when really difficult things have happened in my life, like
Mm-hmm.
circumstances you don't wish upon people. I've had happen, from things with my children and my parents and my husband and things that have and health and all sorts of stuff. So I don't have some kind of like, oh, fairy book, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
No,
I
no,
think
no.
it's going to work. No, you have
I
evidence.
have evidence and I have 200,000 people I've worked with over the last 30 years and I could point to their results and it's just unmessable with. You know
Right.
how math is unmessable? You can't mess with math. And
Right.
this works if you do it the way it's designed and you develop the muscle. It's not a magic pill and it
No,
doesn't happen overnight. It takes discipline and it takes muscle, just like anything. You want to lift 50 pounds or 100 pounds or 200 pounds, you got to start with five,
that's
you
true. You got
know?
to do the work, and then you build up to it. It is like it's like a muscle, like you said. Um, I'm in agreement. I feel like I want to know and learn more about this. Because we've talked about it. And I want, I think we got deep, but
Yes.
I feel like there's
There's
there,
even deeper that we could go.
yeah, but but I'm interested because I feel like, especially for me, I always think about my audience, which are primarily um minority women and women of color who work in STEM, who are in an environment where there is a level of pressure and requirements that are foisted upon them,
Like
right?
demanding.
Right. So I often think about my audience and I'm like, if they can go in with that same spirit and the creative ideal of being unmessable,
Unmess with the unmessable with. Yes.
unmessable with, um, then I think it can only be helpful. I think it
Totally.
will help. It'll prosper them and help to grow them. And even the corporations and companies they work for can benefit from it.
And the environment that they work in, because that environment is however it is, because nobody's created anything else.
Right. Or
So
challenged in a
people,
way that this is, a different way of being in this space.
Yeah. And that's the same thing as when you see you're reactivated. Okay, fine, you get to nothing, but then you end up back there if you don't create another space. So it's the same thing with the environment in STEM or any environment, in the entertainment industry or whatever. I mean, until somebody creates an alternative, all there is what there is.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
That's a
mean,
whole sermon that'll preach every day.
I was just going to say, I mean, it's like, if you listen to anybody who's like a hero of yours or mine, it's like, it's not, let's make this better. It's, I have a dream. It's not, let's fix this effed up thing. No, no, no. It's, I have a vision.
Yeah. 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 You spoke real words there, ma'am. You did. We're not finished here, right? I feel like there's a part two in here someplace. So I'm just
We
gonna
can do
put
a
it out
part
there.
two at some point. You can
Um,
have me back. I would love it.
I'm for it. So I'm putting it out there that there will probably be a part two. So you guys be on the lookout for it. But in the meanwhile,
Yes.
to the website, look at the videos, sign up for the classes, or wherever it is you feel like you're on the spectrum of things at the moment. Try it out. The very least, watch the video. The video
Yeah.
for me was like, I gotta talk to this person.
And that's like 12 minutes. I mean, that's like, if you can't spend 12 minutes of your day creating a new possibility, then you definitely need to watch the video then,
Correct.
because then you are definitely in reaction mode.
Right. And you need this in your life. This conversation has been 50 minutes of life-changing stuff for me, and I was in it. So
It's such a pleasure to speak to you because, you're bringing your real life to the conversation. So I can bring everything I've got to it, you know?
well, I decided again to be intentional about me. And so once I've done that, it's like I show up in every space and you get what you get. But you please note that it was intentional.
That's good. I'm sure your husband likes that.
He does now. At first, he was like,
Yeah.
what is this? Right.
Yeah. It
But
takes a
okay.
little while.
Well, so I do want to end the show today with a couple of things. One, if people are looking for you again, tell us where they can find you. And then if tell us about your books really quickly, and then we can
Sure.
discuss offline our part two.
Yes. So the website is theartofbeingunmessablewith.com. So that's, pretty easy to get to. And then the books, I have a few books, but the two that I think would be most relevant to this conversation, one is called The Promise Effect, which is a 30-day program where every day it's a different promise. And that promise game on my website is sort of like an intro to that concept. And
Mhm.
then the other one is a 31-day program to cause more peace in your life. It's called Peace Promises. So they're all promises designed around peace at the level of individual, relationship, family, community, the world.
Mm, love. Okay, you
They're
guys,
on Amazon. So, that's.
go to Amazon, get the books, go to her website and do what you need to do there. Just
Yes,
do what
come
you need to
play,
do.
come find something. I've got something for every level of what you want.
So, because this is part one. Usually there's a question that I ask all of our guests, but since this is part one, I won't ask you that question. I will wait to the end. I'll wait to our part two to ask you that question. But please note, y'all, this will not be the last that you have heard of this conversation. There definitely needs to be a part two. I have so much more that I want to discuss with you.
I'm game. So I'll
Okay.
do it from Paris.
I'm not mad, just show me the backdrop. Like, yeah, I
That's
need a
right.
window. I need a window view.
Deal.
Okay, y'all. So this concludes today's episode of Stimming in Stilettos with Dr. Tasha. And of course, again, I have to thank Josselyne for just being such a phenomenal, dynamic, giving guest. I mean, she's just given so much. I could not have asked for just I couldn't have asked for more today. So it
Oh,
means a
that's
lot to
great.
me. I feel like I'm getting a little choked up.
You're gonna make me cry now,
No, but I mean I feel like in a lot of ways, this conversation was probably for me. And
Well,
maybe
it
not
made
for
a
my
difference
guests.
for me too, and
So,
God willing, it makes a difference for all your guests. But I remember when we first spoke, and I was like, "You're not going to ask me about math, are you?"
no, but I'm really clear on one of the things that I wanted this podcast to be is a help for women in all the ways
Yes.
it can be a help. And so all the time, we can't necessarily always be talking about technical aspects of, being a biologist or whatever, right? It has to be, hey, who are you outside of being a biologist?
Yeah.
Betty is Betty, whether she's walking into, biological scientific building or she's walking into her house. Like, who is that person? So we have to be in relationship with the whole person.
Yeah. Well, what
Is
you do is not who you are. So,
correct. Correct. But there's a lot of people who get stuck there. So
and they do identify with what they do. And then if something changes in their career, they don't know who they are. That's one of
it,
the big pitfalls around that.
exactly. And that's why I do what I do.
That's great.
And that helps you in, it gives you a jumping off point for some folks, right? Because then it's like, there's a void here because they never took the time to really, create.
Yes, there you go. The magic word.
So, all right, y'all. So we will definitely have a part two. And I can't hardly wait. But this concludes today's episode. And as we do, or as I do with every single episode, I want you guys to keep yourselves safe.